Hey, it's Matty G, back again to bring you some beats.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Matt Greer Music channel. Coming to you now from my extremely messy studio. Eesh. They say a messy studio is a productive studio, so I must be productive AF, cause dude. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about this, the Liven Bass Beats. The new product from Sonicware just came out in the last few weeks. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review on this, some demonstration. We're going to find out what it ticks. We're going to get into what I like about it, what I don't like so much, and so hopefully this can help you make an informed decision on whether or not this is for you. So if that sounds interesting, stick around and let's get into it. The Liven Bass Beats is a 16-part drum machine paired with a wavetable monophonic synthesizer. It has 27 keys, 16 buttons, 16 rubber buttons, and 16 knobs, with an LCD screen, 2 MIDI ports, sync in and out for pocket operators, Volcas, and the like, line in, line out, headphone out, and an external speaker. First off, just the general layout of it is the same as the other Liven boxes. So you've got your keys, you've got your 16 buttons here, you've got these rubber buttons above those, and then you've got these knobs. This is all in the same exact place as the other Liven machines. So if you look here, I've got the XFM, exact same layout, different paint scheme, different labels, but the actual physical build of the thing is the same. And that's a pretty smart idea, I think, for a company like Sonicware, because you keep your R&D costs lower, so you can reuse the same platform for multiple concepts, and we end up getting numerous instruments for a very reasonable price. It's not entirely unlike the pocket operator schema, where it's same buttons in the same spot, same size screen, 2 knobs, but they can all do very different things from each other. So I think that's cool. Anyway, so layout is the same as the other machines. Power button's right here. You got to hold it down for a second. There it is. It's on. You hear that little click in our audio. That means I've turned it on as well. So let's start by giving a quick overview of the 2 different functions here. So mainly, this is essentially a drum machine with a wavetable based monophonic synthesizer tied to it. So we've got a button here for drum. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to make sure I'm in pad mode. It says pad, tells me I've selected that. And that means I can use the keys there to play my drum sounds. The black keys, or black buttons, whatever you want to call those, don't actually do anything for the drums, but these above do as well. So I kind of like that, because if you have, say, like a snare or something, you can actually use 2 different keys to play in your stuff. So it's kind of like the sub pad on a Roland SP, if you're familiar with that. So that's kind of nice. That's the drum machine part. Then you've got, you can hit the bass. Oh, that's way high. Let's make the bass actually play bass. There's a whole ton of different bass sounds and presets in here. Actually, I'll show you a few of those now. That's a weird one. It's really fuzzy. Actually, I'm going to go to a blank pattern so you can hear it without my parameters applied. Now you can play higher registers, so you can use it, you know, to play melodies, that kind of thing. But it's pretty clear that these sounds are really designed for lower registers and bass sounds. So, a ton of presets. There's a whole bunch of different banks. I can go through the different banks here. There's growl. I don't know if that's studio standard. I'm not sure. Extreme, I think. Miscellaneous. Sound effects. and then you get into your user banks here as well. If you're wondering, you can save over the presets, you can modify the presets and then save them, so you're not stuck to just a couple of banks that you can use yourself. And that's the thing about Liven machines, is they're very, very modifiable. The sounds that you get are not necessarily the sounds that you have to stick with. There is a bit of a learning curve to it, but if you take the time to get to know it, there's actually quite a lot of deep parameters to get into this thing. So the idea is you can program your drums, you can program your bass, and you can tie that all to a sequencer so you can make little grooves like this. So that's a little something I made with it. And then we've got this little house beat I put together. So you get the idea. You can make any kind of style of music that you want, but most of the sounds are pretty much geared towards electronic dance music, hip hop, those kinds of things. So anyway, bass synthesizer, drum machine in one. Great sequencer on it. It's a very similar sequencer to what came again on the XFM. You've got 4 bars that you can sequence into a pattern, but you can adjust the note value of that. So let me show you real quick. So right now I'm using 4 bars at a 1 to 16 note count. But if I want to, I can go in to drum here, note, and I can change that from 1 of 16 to 1 of 8. So that's essentially half. So you can work around that. Now you have closer to 8 bars, really. That's double speed. You can get into triplets, lots of different note values. You can do 1 to 1, which is like 1 count per 1 bar. So there's some creative options there for you on the sequencer. Okay, so like I said, it's kind of like 3 machines in one. You've got this main groovebox mode. That's where you spend most of the time creating music. But it's also got a very deep wavetable synthesizer engine in it. It also has a full editor to render and manipulate and edit your drum kits as well. So let's talk about the synth part of it first. I'm going to hit bass here. I'm going to hit function, and down here it says edit memory. I'm going to say okay. I'm just going to choose that one. Now that I am in edit mode, I'm going to put this overlay on because the entire control schema just changed going into that mode. So they give you these overlays so that you know what you're doing. Admittedly, the overlay thing is a little bit weird because you're like, oh, I got to remember these cards and everything, but they're packing so much into this thing. I don't think there's any way around it unless you just have a photographic memory and you know that when you go into edit mode what these new controls do. You're going to need the card to understand what you're controlling, because you know something that was FX amount here is now the level for this patch in this mode. You've got a bunch of different things here. You've got dual oscillators, you've got a sub oscillator, you've got a noise, you've got a filter bank. There's multiple different filter types. You've got resonance. You've got 2 LFOs that are assignable to a bunch of different parameters. You've got your amp envelope here. Then you've got modulation envelopes as well. You've got 2 modulation envelopes that, again, you can assign those to different parameters. You've got these assign knobs that you can assign those to different parameters. So probably one of the most basic assignments that you might want to do is assign knob 1 to your filter cutoff and assign knob 2 to your filter resonance. And that saves with the patch so that when you come back here, these two knobs are going to be your cutoff and your resonance that you assigned while you were in edit mode. I know that's a little bit confusing. You kind of have to compartmentalize your brain in a way that you're like, okay, I know I'm in edit mode now, but you also need to somewhat think ahead, because you're like, I know that I'm going to want to have access to the distortion level in Groovebox mode, so I need to make sure I'm assigning that to a knob now while I'm in edit mode. Again, confusing. But yeah, there's a lot to the synth engine here, and I could sit here for probably 2 hours tweaking all these parameters. But just real quick, Everlow, just all the things that it can do. So you've got dual oscillators, a sub oscillator. You can change the shape and the octave of that sub oscillator. So it's almost like a third oscillator, really. You've got a bunch of different wave shapes for the main oscillators. There is a way also to load additional wave tables into this. So over SysX. I don't quite know how to do that yet, but I know that it's possible. It's in the manual. So yeah, pretty cool. Again, you've got filter, you've got noise, you've got distortion, you've got noise types. So there's white noise, pink noise, there's even water. So actually, I'm going to show you that now, because it's just too cool. So I'm going to turn on the noise. I'm going to go into page 2 here so I can choose the type. And you can see it says white, pink, brown. Not quite sure what all of these mean. Vinyl. And then you've got water. Like what? So it's like a heavy rain, stream, like a splash kind of thing. Vinyl crackle, like that's really cool. That's a first for me for having on a small synthesizer like this. Again, dual LFOs, they're assignable, so I can take. Let's see. Let me turn on my filter. Let me go into type here, low pass. All right, so I've got some filter there. I'm going to hit LFO. It's blinking. That means I get to choose where I want it to go. Yes, I'm going to put it on that filter. Boop. And now, turn on my LFO. I've got shapes for the LFO. I've got sine, square, all these different shapes. I mean, there's a lot. I've got rate, I've got depth. Now I have an LFO. Then you have another LFO. Then you have these modulation sources as well. Then you have things called dimension. So let's turn on second oscillator. You can set some phase between the oscillators so it widens in the stereo spectrum. So even though it is a mono voice, it is not necessarily a mono signal path. It actually will vary between the two channels of your stereo. So that's really cool as well. So there is a lot to get stuck in on with this wavetable synthesizer, and to me it is the main reason I was interested in this in the first place was for that. I think they did an excellent job of packing in a ton of cool stuff to this wavetable synthesizer. I'm not going to save this patch, so I'm just going to hit clear again. I'm out of it. Now I'm back to sequencer mode, Groovebox mode, whatever you want to call it. And I'll show you one other thing real quick. Very similarly, you can edit your drum kit in the same way. Again, it's going to let me choose where I want to put this sucker. I'm going to go to bank 8 because I haven't used that one yet. I can choose a slot where I wanted to put it. Okay. So I'm initializing a new drum kit. Now I've got this second overlay that tells me all the controls for that. By default, they all start off as kicks. If I want to change that, I'm going to go to this button. I'm going to hit snare, tell it that I want it in the snare category. And I got a bunch of snares to choose from, and you go on through your hi-hats, your cymbals, your additional percussion like claps, sticks, congas, stuff like that. There's a bunch of melodic sounds in there. For each of the sounds, you can adjust the tune, the length of it, and there's a ramp kind of envelope thing here. So if you want a slow attack or sharply cutting off decay, it's got that. And then you can adjust pan, you can add effects, you can adjust the level for all of the different instruments, and then it has this total EQ with cutoff resonance, 3 frequency bands with the amplitude for each of those frequency bands. So something I like to do sometimes is get a pattern going with my drums, then come back into here while it's playing and just mess with all those knobs at once until it kind of sounds full and balanced in my ears. I think that's a lot of fun. And I'm going to make a video probably about that on its own later as kind of a tips and tricks sort of thing. So yeah, really quite a lot to this device. So let's give you some final thoughts here. All right, so final thoughts. I really do like it. There is a ton of stuff here that suits me as sort of an engineering type producer guy. I love all of the editable parameters. I love how deep it can go. I love the bass synth engine. They really nailed it on that part, and that's great. That was what was important to me. The drum machine, I don't really need that, to be honest. I have other drum machines that frankly I'm quite happy with, but I'm not going to turn it away either, and it's just a whole other part of this instrument that really is packing in features. And again, for the cost, there is a lot to like about this machine. That being said, the learning curve is steep, and other reviewers have said that too. I completely agree. I don't know if I'd recommend this as a first synth and or groovebox or drum machine. I think ideally you will have spent some time with sequenceable instruments before, but hey, if you want a challenge, you might love it. Regardless, whether you're a noob or you've been at this for a while, you're gonna have to commit some time to it, and that's just the blunt truth about it. I wish a couple of other things. I wish that I could replace the drum sounds over like SysX or something. I think they've said that's not possible. Maybe through an update. I have no info on that, but you know, it is a wish. But again, the cost, right? So you got to make some allowances here because of that. But I think for what it's supposed to do, it really does it well. I think it sounds good, and I personally have really enjoyed using this. And the bass synth engine in particular, I know will be on some of my like pro tracks or whatever you want to call them, because it just sounds great. Anyway, that's my thoughts for now, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or you'd like to see more about this. Tell me what you want to know, and we will get to those. And for now, yeah, I am just going to, whoops, let me get out of there. So yeah, for now, we're just going to do a little bit of a jam, and I will see you guys later. Bye.